Warning, incoming game over. Warning, incoming game over.
That's a win. Hello, welcome to Game Over Winnipeg. My name is Brendan Labarre, and the Jets just won again. They're still undefeated. They're having a great old time. So, this is my first game over. You'll have Ty back this Friday, but welcome. Make sure you're talking in the chat. I believe it'll be over here. Make sure you're going live in the chat throughout the game. You're commenting your favorite parts, everything that happened. And let's get into it. We are part of the Game Over Network. Make sure you are subscribed. Make sure you like them. Everything. Make sure you like our Calgary. I believe we have Calgary and Edmonton in a crossover episode after their game later this evening. So, meanwhile, let's get into it. So, for this game, we had a few things coming in. And with what really got the game kind of started, in my opinion, was there was a shift in the first period where Adam Lowry kind of goes in and he rocks Matt Zuccarello behind the net. And what that did is that started to have the Jets really getting some momentum. And then you kind of saw what would really come to define the game. And I was like the defense activating, the defense getting involved in the offense. And so, for example, when Josh Morris is out there, he was doing his classic shake and bake stuff. He's trying to just pass it around the goalie, around Gustafson, just so he could try and not shoot it through him, but kind of like bank it off of one of his forward sticks so that he would be able to score from that way. And you really saw that throughout the game with players like Pionk, and you saw Dylan Samberg. He was getting really into it. And it was just kind of a huge tale of just these defensemen coming up in the play. Miller and Hayden Fleury were also really heavily involved in that as well. So with that shift coming in, you really saw that Lowry line really get involved. They were really all over the place, and that's really nothing new if you follow this team. Just that Lowry line, having the puck in deep, getting things going. Let's go. Thanks, Liz. And just having a great old time keeping the puck down low. And especially for this team with this third line, it kind of brings their identity, and it really has just kind of encompasses what they're trying to be. And you saw that with the offense coming from the D, like they're taking a lot of point shots. They really wanted a lot of deflections and things of that nature. So Lowry's line really got that started. And there was definitely points where additionally later in the game, how Pionk, that guy, oh my gosh, Pionk had a great game. And I was just going to say with Pionk, so thank you, sad sports fan. What a name. So especially like another time with the Lowry line, we had Pionk kind of take the puck over at the red line in the middle, the center line, and he kind of rushed in for a shot it off of Gustafson's his blocker, and that really started just another cycle, another kind of cycle, and another like few shots at the net. And then with the defense activating, that's just a huge thing in the game. Along with, and then when it comes to the goals, starting with the one on Hellebuck, the one from Middleton, what a stinker, eh? Just coming in, that's a lot of those. Just coming in at the blue line, the shot comes in, and as it floats, it kind of takes a dip through the real high screen, and then it just dips. It goes underneath Connor Hellebuck's arm and goes in. And with Connor Hellebuck, you really don't see a lot of that. You don't see a lot of those point blank shots, because as soon as he gets set up with his big frame, he's usually really good at tracking the puck with his movement and getting in front of it. But after that, he had a lot of great saves. There was the Hartman chance, the breakaway. There was the other breakaway it was Freddie Gaudreau who had the other breakaway. And then there's the Kaprizov to Rossi in the third period where you want to talk about Pionk, sad sports fan. He was really just kind of just danced around him, really just his jocks in the crowd. It's out of there. And then he was able to get that pass to Rossi, but Hellebuck tracked that as well. And then later on in the third period, with about 6 minutes left, Kaprizov got that one shot, the one-timer from the high slot. And Hellebuck just kind of dismayed that. So it just really gave the Jets a chance to... I always joke that the Winnipeg Jets, they're always trying to win 0 to -1. And that really showed during this game when they were just kind of waiting. They were waiting for their chances. And just like having those defense activating, just trying to get those shots and waiting for their chance to strike. And yeah, just again with the defense, that was another thing that was out the game. And with them going in, I thought a lot of defensemen had a great game. It wasn't Dylan DeMello's best game by a long shot. He wasn't his normal, calm, stable self, but he also had a few chances. There's a time where you're watching the play and you're like, oh, that's Dylan DeMello who's really rushing up and joining the rush. And what a great time to be time to be a Jets defenseman if you really want to get involved in the offense. Dylan Sandberg is another guy. That pair, as a pair, him and Neil Pionk, they definitely had a really good game, I would say. And once again, just make sure if you are here, you're in the chat, you're firing off some stuff. Sad sports fan, love to hear you talk about some more of these Neil Pionk plays that we have to go over. So, and then with the Lowry line too, like that, their play kind of really went throughout the game just in that way. So, what else do we have to go off of? Oh, whoa. All right, and then going into kind of the more overall things with the Jets, we will start our second period. Excellent. So with the special teams today, the special teams, even though there wasn't that many kind of special teams chances, there's a few penalties. Barron had one for tripping. There was one where he got his stick in the feet of, I believe it was Marco Rossi, and just completely demolished him in front of his bench. Are we concerned about the lack of 5-on-5 for that? Oh, we'll get there. So he just got his stick in the feet, and he really took a tumble, really got him down in front of the bench. And then there was a few other penalties. I believe Kapari got the one at the end that really led to that last power play for the Minnesota Wild. And then we also had the other penalty. I believe it was Dylan DeMello on the Ryan Hartman chance where he really came and got down. So with the kind of special teams there, we have a few things going on. With the penalty kill looked great today. The Minnesota Wild did not score any goals on the power play, which is awesome. Large part of Connor Hellebuyck, but then also with the power kill that they're kind of implementing. Over the past few years, we've really seen the Winnipeg Jets get kind of caught up in their kind of more passive penalty kill. And today what you really saw is they almost had like three guys down low, especially on that first penalty kill. And then we have the one high guy who's really going after the D. He's really not giving them much time, not much space. And that kind of led to a few plays like Kyle Connor when he was able to knock the puck loose. And Zuccarello had to chase him down at the end there. That's because he was able to get on the guy. He was able to get the puck away from him. And it really showed like what happens when you kind of let those more skilled, more fast players on the penalty kill. They can have some of the like more anticipating what the other skilled players on the other team want to do, which can kind of lead to some chances like that. And I thought that, especially with Kyle Connor on the penalty kill, I think Kyle Connor had a great game. And with him on the penalty kill, it really got him into the fight. When we talk about that, Zuccarello was chasing him down, and Zuccarello went and had to knock the puck away from him with that long stick, which that cannot be legal. I'm sure it is, but it's like that big. And so with him on the penalty kill, he was just able to kind of get into the fight, and he was having to make a lot of extra second effort. And I think from that point on, that one penalty kill really changed things for Kyle Connor, and he was involved in the fight. He was able to retrieve pucks. He was making second efforts, and he was having just a great game, I thought, in my opinion. Another interesting thing was after moving on from the penalty kill, kind of getting towards the power play. With the power play, I'm not too sure if it was because they had Nebeskov was hurt after that trip, if he had a little bit of a stinger, but you kind of saw Nebeskov was taken off that unit, and they had Colin Miller, which wasn't a look we saw earlier in the preseason, but it was something they kind of did more last year when Rick Bowness was the head coach, and that's have two defensemen on the penalty kill. And I thought with Colin Miller, something that was really nice, because he has that big shot. He's got that, it's got to be 100 clicks for sure. And he is a great shot. He has all these great like small offensive tools. And you kind of worry with a guy like that, because when you're on the penalty kill or when you are kind of taking a more forward like position, defensemen, they kind of see the game differently. It's why I'm not a big proponent of like the 5 forward power play, because when you're at the top, when you're at the blue line, it's kind of a different skill set. Like Josh Morrissey is a really good example, because he's so good at kind of walking the line, and he's so good with those little movements and those little fidgets. And that's something that you kind of worry about when you have a forward back there. But going with Colin Miller, one thing I really liked is you kind of see that he must be watching Ovechkin tape, because you see him, he's in the, like if this is the rink, he's on his side here. This is the left side, yeah. So you kind of see him, if this is the net right in front of him, he's kind of going back and forth to the net here, which is really kind of opening up other people. People have to respect him, and it kind of gets him down low if they want to either go for the one-timer, or he can just get the puck in, have deflect off the blade there, just get it in, which I think that's something that could definitely kind of carry in. And that might also just be like a righty-lefty thing, where Nemeskov's the left-handed shot, he's also more of a passer, and getting in that right-handed player in there, who also has a better shot than a guy like Rasmus Kapari, Mason Appleton, a guy who can really take a one-timer, a guy who can really lean into it, which would really help the team. Other things with the power play, that first unit, it's still looking good. The Nikolai Ehlers on there, that getting that entrance in, really great stuff you really like to see. But you kind of see them kind of falling back into getting into those stationary habits. There was one play in the first power play in the first period where they did kind of the same play, and this is something that really works for them. It's really well. It's going to work no matter what, where Scheifele's in the wall, Velarde gets it down low, and he makes that pass to Ehlers in the slot there. And and that's going to happen. That's like the perfect Sean Monahan play. That's something that went on a lot last year, and they're getting that back. But if you get more kind of cycle, a little bit more movement in there, which is something they've obviously been trying to work on, they are going to find a little more success, just because they're going to be able to play off each other and get more separation from those defenders. And I think it was great just kind of how they were moving around, and they could still have a little bit of work to do in terms of just standing still, stuff like that. So the penalty kill is really good. Power play is still improving, and those are things like coming to the season we really wanted to see, so that was really good. All right. And then for kind of the overall game, sad sports fan, you're going to love this. The 5-on-5 production is really tough these days, especially for the top six of Connor, Scheifele, Velarde. We also had Nemestikov, Perfetti, and Ehlers. They still have not scored a goal at 5-on-5, which is becoming a problem. And it's, again, like the Winnipeg Jets last year, especially during that stretch where they were winning all these games, they still weren't that offensive of a team considering some of the weapons they have. And they don't have like one of those top end guys. Like they don't have an Austin Matthews or a Connor McDavid. But even with that, they should still be able to score a little bit more at 5-on-5 than they have. So there's a little more to give there. And some things you want to see is, I think one guy in particular who had kind of a tough time, and you don't usually see it out of this guy, is Gabe Velarde. And we talked about Gabe Velarde's pass on that power play where he was able to get to Ehlers. But other than that, like in any pass that had any sort of difficulty to it, he really struggled to kind of get it to his guy. And that's something we kind of want to see more out of him in terms of being able to, especially with the slick hands on him, you don't really expect him to be missing those passes, to be not having the easiest time getting the puck to his teammates. And there's a few times where if he just would have gotten it on the stick of one of his guys, like in the third period, they're coming down, he was low, which was great. Then they had Scheifele and Kyle Connor in the high slot. This was about 10 minutes left, and he tries to pass it to one of them, and it didn't go to either of them. And you kind of see, it's like, okay, Gabe Velarde, you don't worry about him. You don't worry about, especially with like the passing, the hands. He's probably got the best hands on the team. It's either him or Kyle Connor. And that type of stuff is going to come back. He's going to be great, and you don't really have to worry about that guy. But it's adding to the kind of not being able to score at 5-on-5 is with some of the puck management. And that was also something we saw from the D as well. Because with the puck, especially in the first period for the defense, they were having a hard time managing the puck. And until they got that kind of that spot from Neil Pionk, where Neil Pionk got it into the offensive zone, the Lowry line started to do their thing. When they had that shift with Adam Lowry, where Neil Pionk shot off Gustafson's blocker, and they got that stuff going. The defense were having a real hard time making passes and getting out the zone. And that's something that kind of doesn't help with the Mark Scheifele line, and the top six, because the way, especially that second line with Ehlers, with Nemestikov, with Perfetti, the way they were kind of holding on, and they want to hold on to the puck, which when they're not that big, they have a hard time getting it back. That puck management becomes huge. Okay, we have a comment here from Owen White, hearing bad things about this Pionk guy. You know what, Owen White, he actually had a great game today. And I think, we'll see how the season goes on. He's in a contract year. Hopefully he can have a great year for the Jets. But, sometimes you just got to take the bad with the good. Anyways, the top six. So it's kind of leads to the question of what should the Winnipeg Jets do to kind of get the top six going? And a lot of people, myself included, think that one of the answers is to kind of flip Kyle Connor and Nikolai Ehlers. I don't know if that would have been one of the answers today. It was definitely something that was very apparent in the last game against Chicago, is whenever Nick Ehlers kind of got on and got any sustained ice time with Velarde and Scheifele, things were starting to click. There was that one play where there's kind of a broken line change in that Chicago game, and Nikolai Ehlers was able to kind of generate chances. And then when it came to the 6-on-5 against Chicago, the reason they got that goal as well was because Nikolai Ehlers was able to come on the ice, have the puck, get to Scheifele, get that tip in the net, and it was fantastic. And I think, magic happened, exactly. And then with that top six, you're really starting to see like Cole Perfetti's kind of had a tough time. There's a few times in the game as well where he was able to get in front of the net and really they kind of changed their style. We're doing it a little bit more kind of direct. They were getting from the net, they were getting those tips, and especially with how the defense was shooting the puck and trying to get in on the offense, that became apparent that was probably the best strategy for those guys, which was pretty fantastic. Go Local Sports Team says magic happened. You want to expand on kind of what you mean there, Go Local Sports Team? So we kind of keep going here. And then with some things that we were kind of seeing online too with that second line is, and Kevin Sawyer probably said this like 20 times, is that they don't have a larger human being on that line. They don't have one of those guys who are able to kind of go to the net, play that more direct style of game. And one player I think that would really help in that regard would be Alex Iafallo. Alex Iafallo loves being around the net. He loves doing those tips. He loves making those plays around the net, kind of digging in around the 6-foot area from the crease. And that's something that could really help those guys, especially Nikolai Ehlers, who is really good at making those plays, really good at keeping the puck. And Nemestikov is just one of the smartest players on the team, along with Cole Perfetti. So you either got to take Perfetti or Nemestikov off. They don't seem to really want to retry Cole Perfetti at center, but that's something that they may want to kind of rethink about going forward, especially if this slump continues. On the other side of that, though, we talked a lot about the Adam Lowry line and how effective they've been today. Effective they've been all season, all 3 games for the undefeated Winnipeg Jets. And another great thing about this team is the fourth line right now. You think about Morgan Barron, who's always good, he's a very physical guy, especially in terms of maybe not giving out hits, but Morgan Barron is really good at using his body to kind of keep guys off the puck, keep the puck kind of away from them. Alex Iafallo, he's just a little rat in the corners. He's so good at getting the puck, kind of retrieving it. He's good on the cycle. And then there was Rasmus Kupari. And Rasmus Kupari this year, he spent so long last year, his leg, believe he got his leg broken or something. He had that long injury. I forget exactly what it was. But he had a really decent start to the season. He was doing stuff, got injured, and then he had a lot of trouble getting back. He wasn't getting the lineup. Gustafsson took his job. They traded for Sean Monahan. They traded for Tyler Toffoli, and he never really got that opportunity back. And with that, you really are thinking like, okay, so he comes in the training camp this year. He kind of had an uphill battle. Not only did he have to take his job back from Gustafsson, Brad Lambert was here, and the Jets seemed like they really, really wanted Brad Lambert to make this hockey team. So what Rasmus Kupari had to do is he kind of had to find a way to be effective. And what you were kind of worried about what I was kind of worried about is, okay, do they want Rasmus Kupari on this fourth line just to be a right-handed guy who can take draws? Because if it was David Gustafsson, they would have Mark Scheifele as a left-handed centerman, or a right-handed centerman. And then they would have Lowry, they would have Nemestikov, who isn't great at faceoffs, and they would also have Gustafsson, who would all be left-handed players. And you were kind of worried that Rasmus Kapari was just kind of on the team to be the other token kind of right-handed centerman. They thought that, and you were kind of worried that it might become a donut line where, you got some decent things going on the side, but you got nothing in the middle. And I think that with Rasmus Kapari, what I really appreciate about a good bottom six player is when they have a noticeable skill. Like, you look at Brandon Tanev back when he was with the Jets, he was fast and they were able to use his speed, and he always just gave the best effort. And with that, Adam Lowry was able, and Andrew Kopp at the time, they were really good at like putting pucks in areas for kind of Tanev to skate into, and they're able to use that one noticeable skill that Brandon Tanev had. And with Rasmus Kapari, he's a fast player, but you see that his noticeable skill, his like thing that makes him an effective hockey player, is his acceleration, his agility. So you see him kind of when he's playing, he's got his, he's in the corner, he's going down low, him, Barron, and Iafallo, they're going on the cycle. They keep going, they keep going, they keep going. And what Rasmus Kapari is so good at is he takes his strides, he's really good at changing direction, and that creates room for other guys. It creates room for himself. And that's something that you see a lot. And then with that quickness and that goal he scored on Friday night against Chicago, he's able to use his quickness to kind of get into the area to, or was it? No, it was against Edmonton, because Mark Scheifele scored the only goals for Winnipeg against Chicago. Against Edmonton, when Rasmus Kapari scored, it was because he was able to go on the cycle and keep the cycle going. And then he was able to kind of get into that the soft ice quickly. And as the puck just kind of popped out to him, he was able to bang it in. And Rasmus Kapari's been really impressive this season. I've been really excited to watch him play and kind of keep going, especially since we lost so many games of his last year. And he went 70 games without an NHL goal before scoring on Wednesday. So really looking forward to those bottom six. And it almost kind of presents a problem where you don't want to move any of those guys up. And you don't want to kind of mess with those lines, because it's like, okay, those are our best lines. We don't want to make 3 defective lines by fixing one of the other guys and switching those guys. So hopefully the top 6 can kind of figure out. They're kind of stepping in the right direction here. And I think with some of the other, like, maybe they can bring up like Brad Lambert. Who knows? They have a spare roster spot. I'm not sure what they're doing with that. It seems like they're so happy, especially when they're at home, and they can let these young guys go and just play in the Moose, that they can just kind of relax, say like, okay guys, we're undefeated, and just kind of have a nice time while they're undefeated. Just like, keep going. Let's keep the good vibes going. Let's keep on this track here. And with that, we can kind of move into the third period here as well. And during the overtime period, after this segment, we're going to take some more answers or some more questions from the fans, those of you in chat who are there and just kind of ready to talk about the Winnipeg Jets. So for this kind of later thing, I just kind of want to give flowers to some Winnipeg Jets legends here. And the first one is Zach Bogosian. Zach Bogosian was all over this game tonight. Zach Bogosian was just, in the first period, there's a time where I think he cross-checked, I believe it was Nemestikov behind the net. He had him pinned down. He went, and then he kind of let him there. There was no call on the play. I thought it was preposterous. And then he goes up, he joins the rush, he gets a pretty good shot off. And then I think he tried to fight somebody coming off the ice. He was definitely barking at him. And it was just one of those things where you're like, oh my gosh, what a guy. His fingerprints were all over this game. He was physical. He almost scored a goal as well when Hellebuck just like stopped the puck right under his pad, which was kind of a really tough save, and it almost squeaked out. And it definitely would have been a completely different game if Zach Bogosian was able to score that one goal. And then Zach Bogosian also at the end, he saved a goal by stopping Mark Scheifele. He definitely took a good penalty at the end there to stop Mark Scheifele from getting his second of the game. And speaking of Mark Scheifele, I think that's the second guy we got to talk about. Mark Scheifele, it was his 800th game today. Zach, yep. Well, with Mark Scheifele, he had his 800th game today. He scored his 301st goal. And you saw how Mark Scheifele scored off that face-off. That was so classic Mark Scheifele, especially when back in those heydays with the power play with Wheeler, Scheifele, Line, Bufflin, and whoever they had in the bottom. It was sometimes Paul Stastny. It was Kyle Connor. And one of the things that not Kyle Connor, but Mark Scheifele was so good at is he was making those separations, and he's so good at that like scoop shot from the slot, just bring it in the net. One of the best to ever do it, kind of in that conversation with Braden Point and Bergeron for so good at being those shot, so good at making that shot. And we don't see it as much anymore because the power play kind of runs through him. It kind of goes more with him as a playmaker, or sometimes he gets a one timer off, even though more likely will go to Kyle Connor if they're looking for that shot. And it was just so vintage, and we've seen this player grow from when we used to call him online. His nickname was Bambi because he'd be falling all over the ice. Those early games when he was a third line center after Brian Little and Jokinen, and he was playing on a line with like Matt Halischuk and Michael Frolik, and I remember he had that 1 3-point game against. He had that 1 3-point game against Detroit, and it was like, okay, Mark Scheifele's kind of here. Mark Scheifele's having a great time. And you see him grow from the 2011 draft where he put on the All-NHL jersey. You see him grow from his first few games when he scored. I think he scored against Toronto in that 2011 season. Win that right away. And we see him going to those playoffs where he kind of got pushed around by Anaheim when he was on a line with, what's his name? He had Blake Wheeler on his right. He had Drew Stafford, another Winnipeg Jet legend. Actually, that's who I got on my jersey here. They had Drew Stafford kind of killing things and scoring goals in that 2015 run with Anaheim. And then from him that next year, he scores 30 goals. Brian Little, he got his head taken off by Anton Strawman on the Tampa Bay Lightning. And you see Mark Scheifele have that evolution to scoring 30 goals, and then you're not quite sure if that's who he actually was, because a lot of those goals, if you remember, it was his first time like having an extended look as the first line center because of the Little injury, and then they were able to kind of give him that time, and he was scoring the goals, but they were all kind of those garbage time goals, when you're losing 7-2, and then you score a goal, and it's like, does that really matter? Did the other team kind of let up? And yeah, one of Flames legend, Michael Frolik, him and a lot of those guys. And then you see Mark Scheifele, he signs that contract after the 2016 season, and he just keeps on growing and he keeps evolving. And you see him in that 2018 playoff run where he scored all those goals. I believe it was either the home goal record or the away goal record of him on that playoff series. And he was just kept on growing, kept evolving. He was one of the very best centermen in the league that year. And it was just so nice to see like that first player that the Winnipeg Jets have, who was coached by Dale Hawerchuk, who kind of came from that system. So he played on the World Junior team, and he was our guy. And for 800 games he's been here, for 800 games he's put it all, and then signing that contract last year to kind of commit his whole career to be a Winnipeg Jet, especially from a city where not a lot of guys want to be here. Where like you could probably put when you have a no trade clause, it's not if it's gonna be on it, if it's we're first or if Buffalo's first. And that's one of those things where it's like, for a guy like him, for a guy like Connor Hellebuck to want to be here long term. And there's been some ups and downs where we watch Mark Scheifele with his defensive play kind of dips, and we're like, oh my gosh, like we need some other things. But he's a Winnipeg Jet, and throughout these first few games, he's really been carrying the team. And like the Jets, they wouldn't have had so many of those points if not for him. They might be 1-2 at this point if not for Mark Scheifele. And Mark Scheifele is just showing how valuable he is to this team, and how much it's just kind of like, if it wasn't for Adam Lowry, he'd probably be the captain, and this team kind of revolves around this guy. And that is kind of my blab about Mark Scheifele. Another guy who had a great game, Kyle Connor. He was really good today. And yeah, we can kind of take this to the overtime, and we can start having some questions. We'll start with Alex Loshgavo. All right, so we are in the overtime period. This is the fourth segment of the show where we kind of look through our chat here and we kind of see, okay, let's answer some questions. So make sure your questions are going in the chat, and we'll start with Alex Loshkiavo, who asked, do you think Perfetti sticks in the top 6? And especially with a guy like Cole Perfetti, I think they really want to make that work. His game kind of really progressed as he went on today, especially when he got more touches. His defensive play was getting pretty good. He was doing really good. And when you kind of do those swoops in the defensive zone and you kind of go back and you get it. And he was really good at like retrieving those pucks and starting the transition. So I think you got to be pretty happy with that. But, around these parts or in this house, we call him the Muffin Man. And it's because he doesn't have a great shot. The goalie feels like he's probably been hit with a muffin, and he's got to find other ways to be effective. And one of those ways is with that line, you're looking for a little bit more directness. He had one shot today where he shot it low off the pad and it went out and Nemestikov almost got it. And those are the type of things you're looking for. And I think the Winnipeg Jets starting 3-0, it kind of gives them some time to figure some things out. And especially with Cole Perfetti, with that young player, someone who really wants to prove it, I think they want to give him the chance to kind of figure that out. And especially the way the Jets kind of run this team, is that actually the second line, or is it Mark Scheifele's line, the Lowry line, and then that line can kind of take the more butter soft minutes? And I think that third line is like, they're going to have to try and figure that out. I don't know what the other option would be. I think you can get Iafallo up there, but I don't think they want to take that kind of fourth line away. And I think you kind of see that with how through these first 3 games, no matter how much they're not scoring, they are not changing anything within the line combinations. And then we have Taylor says, what do you think about Barron on the second line to add size? I think Barron's kind of limited in kind of his offensive output. He did score 10 goals last year. And I think with Barron, you see one thing I really like about Barron is that he's super good at kind of protecting the puck, keeping it down low. But one thing you really notice about Barron and with this hockey team in general is as Adam Lowry goes, the team kind of goes, the third line kind of goes. And you really, when it comes to Morgan Barron on the fourth line, he kind of makes up the identity of that fourth line. You saw it with in the Colorado series last year, that when Morgan Barron wasn't there, the fourth line really wasn't effective. And I think he has a lot to do with that because he kind of brings the identity. And with that fourth line, like they had the option to go with the Cole Perfetti when he was scratched, and then they put Axel Fialbi in there. But they had the option to go Perfetti, Nemestikov, and Iafallo, which was their second line most of the year. But I don't think it would have made a difference because Morgan Barron is so effective. He kind of encapsulates that fourth line. And I really think that they kind of want to keep him there just to make sure it's there. Make sure that he keeps stabilizing it. And you really want, and I think if anyone's going to come up, they're going to put Iafallo up there because he's shown he has a lot more experience playing in a more scoring role as he did in LA when he played a lot with Kopitar and Kempe. All right, and then we have Conrad. For those outside the Winnipeg market, is Morgan Barron a bottom 6 winger, or is the hope that is there more to him than that? So that's from Conrad. And Conrad, I believe that Morgan Barron, we talk about Kupari and like what's his special skill. It's his speed, it's his quickness. With Morgan Barron, I think he's more of a bottom 6 guy. I don't think he has kind of the potential. You see Morgan Barron and you don't see like those flashes that there could be. I don't believe you can see those flashes that there's a lot more than there. And maybe he has the opportunity to kind of max out at a second line guy, but I think the question also becomes is if Morgan Barron's on your second line, are you winning stuff, or are you is he on your second line because he has to be? But I think it would be interesting because I think one option they have with this team is if you want to keep the Adam Lowry line the same, if you want to split your top 6 into almost 3 duos and kind of make a top 9, can Morgan Barron stick with a line that's like him, Nemestikov, and Ehlers? Is that a way, if that's your third line, or like him, Scheifele, and Velarde? Is there a way for him to kind of, like, there's only one puck, and if you have a Batman and Robin on the team, can he be the Alfred? Can he kind of like do the mucky things? Can he be the next Iafallo? I just don't think he has that like upside to do more things, unless like he's kind of like a Alfred situation. I don't think he would ever carry a top 6 line. All right, and we have Jean. Jean says, Montreal fan. With Perfetti on his fantasy team here, do you think he's any chance of playing higher in the lineup this year? I honestly don't think so. Perfetti's also a really tough fantasy player because he doesn't hit and he doesn't really shoot. And I don't know if I don't believe he blocks. I can't believe he blocks, but I don't think he's going to kind of jump up. He doesn't play a lot of center here in Winnipeg. He is more of a winger, and if they're going to move someone up on that first line, it's going to be Ehlers. Scott Arniel loves Nikolai Ehlers. He's like the only guy to ever have him on the first power play. He is also the only guy to like kind of give him like a long-term look when there was at first line, and that was with Kyle Connor out. And then when he would kind of take over for Bonus Gaze that time, when Bonus would kind of take a step away from the team, they would always flip Ehlers on that top line. They would keep him there for quite a bit, and that was always his first move. So I don't think if they were going to do things with Perfetti, I don't think they would move him up. I think they would move him down, and especially since Perfetti has a weakness of skating, I don't think you can put him on a line with Velarde, who's also a weak skater, and then kind of have that be a super effective line unless they were able to really just cycle the puck. And then we have Conrad, who also says, how far off do you think Elias Salomonsson is from being a daily NHLer? With him, I think I'm not the biggest guy to say that people need to put on size, but he's a skinny kid. And I think that especially with it's his first year of North America, like I hope, because I kind of want to see him down there. You kind of want to see him like get those power play ups, those big minutes. He has improved. Like he hasn't really played a lot of the NHL game, of the North American game, and I think that's also going to be a big thing where he learns like, okay, like I need to put some more on size, especially as a defenseman. With this team, they already kind of lost a lot of physicality with losing Brendan Dillon, and I don't think they really want to lose anymore. And I think that like playing in the Western Conference and playing against those fast guys, I think that Salomonsson has some room to grow in terms of kind of making the team, and especially since he's a right-handed shot, and the Winnipeg Jets, like they have DeMello, they have Pionk, and they have Miller up the right side. I don't think they're kind of going to be pushing him to kind of make that team. And they have Dylan, can't remember, let's say, as Colin, and I think that they're going to put him in before Salomonsson. So I think they're kind of like keep him down there. I don't think he just doesn't have the size to kind of like compete and defend at the NHL level yet. And I think it's almost like he's down there and he's got to learn what he doesn't know yet. Or I guess that's kind of self-explanatory. He's got to learn what he doesn't know, and he's got to learn like how to adjust to that NHL game, or the North American game, which is a bit more physical because you have a lot less space. And all right, with that, I believe we're done. We have no more questions in the chat. This has been Game Over Winnipeg. Make sure you like, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you also go watch the Game Over crossover between Edmonton and Calgary a little bit later. And also, we also have a Patreon. If you want to subscribe to the Patreon, then that gives you access to our Discord server. You can come talk to us. You can talk to me. You can talk to Ty. Speaking of Ty, he'll be back on Friday when the Winnipeg Jets take on the San Jose Sharks here in Winnipeg. It'll be great. Ty's awesome. And so, thank you for watching. This has been Brendan Labarre for Game Over Winnipeg, and we will see you guys next time.